So you have a player at the table who spent half hour rolling up his 1E paladin. He gives him a name, he picks out his cool gear, he writes down his lawful good alignment. 10 minutes into the first session, he pokes the wrong iron chest with his sword, fails a saving throw against poison, and dies instantly. The player glares at you from across the room. The room totally goes quiet. All the fun leaves the building, right? This is the ultimate test for any dungeon master. You can map the perfect dungeon, run the smartest monsters, and track every single torch. But if you don't know how to manage the human beings sitting around the table, your campaign will implode. I guarantee it. So today, we are talking about table chemistry. All right, I'm going to show you how to set up a old school social contract so your players respect the danger, embrace character death, and keep coming back for more. So you guys, I am DM Angelo. This is the DM and Friends YouTube channel, and we are on video number 9 of our Dungeon Masterclass. Video number 9, which I'm calling Managing the Table. So, the secret to preventing hurt feelings at the table starts before anyone rolls a single die. It's called Session 0. And in the 1E, and all OSR games, right? Any OSR campaign, it is a mandatory thing, right? In Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, we always had a Session 0. You need to look your friends in the eye and lay down the terms of the world. You tell them flat out, hey, dice rolls are going to be out in the open, right? You know, if that's your case, right? I am not going to fudge them to do harm to you, and I'm not going to fudge them to save you. Same thing for you guys. No cheating on the dice, right? Also let them know the world is dangerous, right? You know, run away when you get outmatched, right? Also tell them characters will die. Bring a backup concept character just in case, all right? So when you set these early expectations out, you know, from the beginning, right? You change the psychology of the table, right? Death stops being a personal insult on, you know, from the DM, and it becomes a shared dramatic experience, consequence of the game table, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. You aren't the executioner. You're just the referee of the game, you know? I say it all the time. I don't kill players. They end up killing themselves. So let's talk about the backup character, right? So, and a lot of DMs use this, and sometimes, you know, I'll do it, but then sometimes I don't. But it's a good idea for you as a new DM to have them roll up a backup character, right? Because in modern editions, a character death pauses the entire evening while someone spends a couple hours building a new hero, right? In our masterclass, we use the 3-minute rule for death, right? Every player at the DM and Friends table should have 1 or 2 pre-rolled level 1 meat shields ready to go in their folder, right? When, you know, Sir Galahad gets, you know, melted by a green slime, right? Or eaten away totally. The player doesn't, you know, pack up their bags and go home, right? They mourn for 30 seconds, right? I mean, that's what we used to do. We just roll up a whole brand new character real quick, boom. But, you know, and grab their, you know, have them mourn for a second, grab their backup sheet, and we introduce him in 5 minutes as a mercenary prisoner, right? Chained to the next room, something like that, right? Keep the momentum moving, you know. So I want to talk about some dynamics now, okay? So spotlight management, you know, leading the orchestra, right? You're going to have players like this. So every gaming group has a couple types of people, right? The loud player who wants to talk to every single NPC, right? And kick down every single door. And then you're also going to have the quiet player, right? One who sits back and lets everyone else make all the choices, right? Those are two distinct type of people that you're gonna have, right? So as a referee, it is your job to manage Spotlight, right? And I've done videos on this, and I will put up some support videos that you can check out, right? But don't just wait for people to shout over each other, right? Use the table rotation technique, okay? When the room gets chaotic, stop the loud player mid-sentence, if you can, and turn directly to the quiet one. Say something like, hey, John, while Dave is arguing with the barkeep, what is the thief doing? What is your character doing, right? Who are you watching? This pulls the quiet player into, the fiction without forcing them to, compete with attention, right? Creating balance, healthy table chemistry. I usually go around the room and I'll say, what are you doing? 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 And sometimes if somebody's going to butt in and, have to jump in front of everybody, I will, and I've done it many, many times. I said, okay, hold on one second. We're not done with what this player is doing. So it's okay to do that. It's okay because if you don't nip that in the butt really, really quick, everybody else is going to be silenced. So it is your job to get everybody involved, right? And once that quiet player does start opening up, he's going to he or she is going to get into the game. And you'll see that. Sometimes people that are very vocal about things will drown out the other players. And once you give that player that is being drowned out a voice, you'll be surprised. They'll get really involved. So, table spotlight, remember that. All right, so collaborative cartography, right? Share the burden, right? So this is another thing that's very important about the table, right? So remember the channel's name, the DM and Friends, right? So you are not a service provider putting on a show for the customers, right? You are playing the game with your buddies, right? Share the mechanical workload, right? So assign roles to your players, right? One person is the mapper, right? Yes, we have a mapper in the group, okay? Have one person be the mapper, right? They draw the grid. They're gonna draw your one page, your dungeon here. They're gonna follow along with your descriptions, right? They're gonna keep everybody from getting lost, right? And make sure you give them good descriptions, right? And it can be easily as 10 feet, 10-foot hallway, 40 feet with 2 doors on the side. Easy for them to draw out real quick, right? So have another. So that's one role, right? So another role is maybe you have one person is the quartermaster in the group, and in my group we have these roles, right? Mapper sometimes not, because it is an online game. It's kind of tough, but another one is the quartermaster, right? So role number 2 would be the quartermaster, right? So they track the party's pooled rations, remaining torches, treasure, what's in the party loot, that kind of stuff. That gives him a job too, right? So, and that's super important for the team, right? To know, where they found that necklace, or that necklace of prayer beads, right? Where they found it and where it's at. It's in the back of the cart or something like that. Or maybe Terry Orr, the cleric of St. Cuthbert's, wearing it. Once he's wearing it, they don't really have to keep track of it. But that quartermaster is really supposed to keep track of where the treasure, what treasure is in the group, how many rations are in, non-individually. So give a job for the quartermaster. He's part of the keep track of the party loop. Super easy, and it gives him something to do and it gives him a role. You'll be surprised on this. So another person, right? In some cases, you could have them have an initiative tracker, right? So when the players take ownership of, that's kind of a far-fetched initiative tracker, but that is, you know, that's another role I've seen used actually. Another role is, and we used to do this back in old school, and I've seen less and less of this at tables and cons and stuff like that, but I like to ask for this from the table. A caller, the group caller. So everybody gets together, and the DM isn't kind of having to hear from every single person in here. So there's usually a caller, right? And the caller is going to relay back to the DM what the group is going to do, right? On an individual basis, you know, you let them kind of say what they're going to do, but what's the part, whenever the DM says, what's the party going to do? Assign a caller. You will be amazed if somebody is designated a caller, how easy how the dynamics of the group changes and how easy it is for communication in the group. So that's another role. And I'm sure there's other roles out there too, but you know, definitely a mapper, a quartermaster, you know, you could have somebody as a track and initiative, or you could also have, and I really think this is the best, is having a caller. So when players take ownership of the game's mechanics, right, of just the you know, the things happening within the dynamics of the group during normal play, they are going to engage deeper with the world. And it takes a massive amount of stress off of your shoulders as a DM, because that's one thing I think DMs get a little, you know, especially new ones, they get a super just kind of overwhelmed by, oh my God, I got to keep track of all this. And if I don't do it 100% correctly, I'm a failure. Well, like I said in some of the past videos of this series, excuse me, you can, you know, when it comes to like the story, right? You can put that off on the players. Like when they come into town, ask them, I mean, this is brilliant. Ask them, what do you know about the town? What do you know about the bartender? What do you know about the blacksmith? What do you know about the town mayor? Let them give you that information instead of it all having to come from in here. Same thing with the roles, right? Okay. So I know it's a little long-winded there, but it's super important to know that you're not alone in this game. Players are, if you say, hey, these are the roles I want to assign, you'll be surprised. Nobody's going to push back at you. They're going to be like, I'll be the mapper. I'll be the quartermaster. I'll be, you know. So do it, and you will find out that it's going to help you tremendously. So one thing I also want to talk about in this is, how do you deal with things that go wrong at the table, right? How do you... The best way to, you know, let's say you have a player that is so pissed off or arguing with you all the time or this and that, right? So one thing I recommend is, because it's your job as the DM. It's your job to protect the table. Because if you don't protect the table, you don't have a game, right? So it's really 100% your job to protect that table, protect your campaign, protect the people around it, right? Because and if you have one bad seed, it only takes one bad seed to destroy a table, kill the momentum, kill the dynamics and all that. So keep an eye out for that. And the best advice I have for you, and I've done videos on that where you have disruptive players and stuff like that. So I'll put another link up there for a little, you know, deeper dive. But my best advice to you is to nip it in the butt right then and there. Okay, have a conversation with that friend of yours out of everybody else's ears. Talk to them and say, hey man, this is, you know, and lay out the situation and say, look, we're just trying to have a game here. This is not working. And sometimes you have to part ways. You know, I have done that in my career of being a DM. I've had to make that hard choice where it's like, you know what, this is just not working for all of us. It's probably not the best thing for you to be a part of this. You might have to do that. And it's a sucky thing to do, but remember, you as being the referee, one of your jobs is to protect the table. So if you ever have a question about that, just reach out to me and I'll help you through that process, because it's tough. It's tough. But you are going to have different, the thing about this game is there's not only do we have the rule books here, we have the guidelines for the game, right? I mean, that's the easy part. The tough part is the human factor of it, okay? And that's where the real wild card is. So the human factor you have to deal with humans, right? And everybody's different. Everybody's got their own interpretation. Everybody's got their own mood that day. Everybody's got their own, things going on in real life, right? So it's really important too, and I fail at this sometimes. It's very important for you to kind of keep your cool. Hey, we'll get to that during the break, those kind of situations. So it's a very tough thing to do, but I think you're going to do it. All right. Well, when your table chemistry is right? A character dying doesn't ruin the night, right? It becomes a legendary story your group will laugh about or cry about for the next 5 years. We talk about in my campaign, Hommlet Dark, right? There's been a lot of character death, and some of them glorious. Things that I'm pretty happy and fortunate that the players at the group don't take things personal, right? And I think we're all old school players in that mind that they not all the time, but it's a very interesting thing that when player death does happen, it is talked about as wow, later on or in hindsight. So, right now you have the mindset, right? Out of the Masterclass, right? You have the mindset. You have the tools. You have the dungeon that you created, right? You have the starting point. You have the town. And you figured out how to put monsters in it, right? Do wandering monsters and the monster ecology. And we talked about hazards and keeping track of torches and time and turns, right? And the players are now ready, right? So you got the whole thing, got it all there, right? There's only one thing left to do. One thing. So in our final video of this series, and you've made it this far, which congratulations to you. You've made it this far. In the final video of this series, we're going to look at your very first session, which I am excited for you. I am super excited. If you're a new DM and you've been watching this and you're ready for your first session and beyond, right? And beyond, I'm going to give you a pre-game checklist, all right? Exactly what I do 30 minutes before my players arrive. Okay, the very first thing, when everybody kind of gets to my house, gets around, before they get to the table, before they got their pizza boxes and all that stuff, I'm going to tell you what I do, my checklist, okay? We're going to talk about that. And exactly what I do 30 minutes before they arrive, I assure you, session 1 is a massive success. All right, well, set your expectations, protect the spotlight, okay? Protect the spotlight of the table, and I'll see you at the table, and I'll see you at the next video. So click over here for the next video. All right, you guys, almost there. All right, bye-bye.